Alright, iPhone season has officially kicked off. But iPhone isn't the only thing that Apple talked about at their September event, so if you want to know if you should pick up one of the updated devices announced, as well as some of my thoughts and opinions, this is the video for you. Hey, Danny with the DMGT here, your new favorite place for all things music, games, and tech. If you watched my what to expect video for this event, by now you may or may not know that some things were correct and some things were not. As I mentioned, they definitely talked about Apple TV Plus quite a bit. Nothing really groundbreaking there, they were just promoting their streaming service, as well as bragging about some of the accolades that some of their original shows and content have received so far. And as I predicted, they definitely announced some new shows that they're working on. I will personally be keeping an eye out for that Jon Stewart one. Okay, onto the actual products. Starting off with the original iPad. I'm like 99% sure that Apple is trying to softly discontinue this product. At a price point of $329, this is going to be the most accessible iPad in their lineup, but they haven't physically updated the device in years. They added center stage to their front-facing camera, which is basically just a way to track a person when you're on a video call or video conference. And it is nice for students that are learning remotely still, or if you're on the go, or just moving around a little bit when you're on a FaceTime call. But truly, other than that, there really isn't that much to talk about with the baseline iPad. They did update the internal so it's a little bit more performance, but no real splashes here. I think this is effectively functioning as their SE model for the iPad lineup, so maybe they aren't trying to completely get rid of it, but with all the updates that iPad mini received, it certainly feels like it. With iPad mini, we got the updated physical design that mirrors iPad Air and iPad Pro, a larger 8.3-inch display in the same footprint as the previous iPad mini, the A15 Bionic chip with much better performance than the previous model, support for third-party USB-C accessories, 5G connectivity, and a camera with HDR support, better aperture range, as well as True Tone flash. Oh, and I almost forgot, you can also use the Gen 2 Apple Pencil with it. Okay, of course, price range here is a little steep, $499 for the baseline model. That's not an insignificant jump from baseline iPad, but if you're a creative and looking for a smaller footprint and actual new updated features, iPad mini is actually looking pretty enticing right now. I've actually done some video editing for this channel using last year's iPad Air with the A15 chip, and if you're using Dolby Vision HDR10 footage from iPhone 12, it actually outperforms my 2016 MacBook Pro. So while the iPad mini definitely is a little expensive, it's nothing to scoff at, but you will be weighing Xbox 360, PS5, or an iPad mini. As far as Apple Watch goes, this is one of the bigger misses from the rumors. We didn't actually get an updated boxy square-like design similar to the iPhone and the iPad. With the Series 7, Apple did manage to increase the screen size in the same footprint compared to the Series 6. Other than that, they added some faster charging and cycling options for workouts, but in my opinion, there really isn't much of an incentive to upgrade here if you're on a 5 or a 6. I did think that updated AirPods were going to be a long shot, and that would be correct because there was absolutely no mention of AirPods anywhere at the event. Okay, let's talk iPhone 13 because I have thoughts here. We got 5 new color options with the 13 and 13 mini. I'm already seeing some hype around that pink one, and as far as physically, they did move the camera lenses diagonally on the back. They didn't really go into that much detail on it, but they did add the sensor shift optical stabilization, so your photos and videos are going to look much smoother, particularly when the filmer is in motion. They also did add HDR10 and Dolby Vision support with the cameras on iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 mini, so that's going to be a super nice touch if you're looking to update to this model and skipped over the 12 Pro. Now, there is a big feature that was added across the entire iPhone 13 lineup, and that's cinematic mode when video recording, but I'm going to touch on that one last. Some basic things like you get an extra hour of battery life on both models, but finally, Apple drops the 64GB model on all iPhones. The new baseline is 128 gigabytes. I think this should have happened a couple of years ago, but at least they finally did it. Same price point as last year on the iPhone 13 mini and iPhone 13. Also, Apple didn't really talk about this at all, but yeah, the notch is smaller on both devices. It doesn't look like it's any thinner, it just takes up a little less horizontal space, it's a little less wide, and the front-facing camera moved from the right side to the left side. As for the prosumers, let's talk about iPhone 13 Pro. They slightly changed the color of blue on this year's iPhone, but you got 4 color options: slate, gold, white, and a new blue. Now, I didn't mention this with the non-Pro 13, but they did add an Apple custom OLED display, and I say this here because they did update the display on iPhone 13 Pro to go up to 1000 nits, which of course is very bright and is going to improve contrast, and the new display does support 120 Hz. But there's a catch, it's not all the time. Apple is adding what they're calling ProMotion. Anyone in the monitor or television world will know that this is basically variable refresh rate. In gaming applications, this is particularly helpful for performance, basically what Nvidia and AMD have known as G-Sync and FreeSync. But because monitors and TVs are usually connected to a continuous power source, this would only happen with supported applications and gaming. However, Apple's application here is interesting. Basically, when there's little to no motion happening on your display, the refresh rate can drop all the way down to 10 Hz. And as you're scrolling around using video playback or playing games on your phone, then the refresh rate of the display will increase, giving you that much smoother motion. Now, I know why they did this. This is to conserve battery life. If they had 120 Hz going all the time, your battery would last an hour, 2 hours at most. Really nice nonetheless, especially if you consume a lot of media or play games on your mobile phone. It would be super weird and inefficient to buy an iPhone 13 Pro just to game on it. You can get multiple Xboxes or PlayStation 5s at that price point. Nonetheless, it's going to be pretty useful for creatives and prosumers. They also added macro capabilities to the photo lens, which I believe is probably the reason why the camera bump is so much bigger this time. Otherwise, some marginal updates to aperture, 3x optical zoom, and slightly better night mode performance on the wide and ultra wide lenses. And on the storage front, I guess Apple was feeling generous this time around because there is now an option on iPhone 13 Pro to go up to 1 TB. So if you film a ton of video and always run out of space, then you can update to the 1 TB option. Now, I do want to say that on the Pro models, they did add 4K 30fps ProRes capabilities, but here's the kicker. And that 4K 30fps ProRes support, not available on the 128GB baseline iPhone 13 Pro. There already isn't a ton of reasons for someone on iPhone 12 to make the jump to iPhone 13. Now, for full disclosure, am I getting iPhone 13 Pro? Yes, I will, but I'm a content creator, so it's part of my job. Still, it's one of those things that Apple manages to do every single year to call a Pro device and remove one of their Pro features. Not to mention that you're still on USB 2.0 speeds with a Lightning port or stuck with AirDrop when you want to transfer and edit your 4K ProRes footage. It's stuff like this that is really mind-boggling sometimes, and I don't understand why some Apple fans refuse to criticize them for it. So I'll get off my high horse. Something to keep in mind: if you want 4K ProRes resolutions, you need to have at least a 256 model of iPhone 13 Pro. Otherwise, you still do get ProRes support on the 128 model, but it's only going to be at 1080p. Apple didn't really compare iPhone 13 to iPhone 12. They kept all their performance comparisons to the competition, which leads me to believe, and we won't actually know until we get it into our hands, that the performance of iPhone 13 isn't that much better than iPhone 12. And I've never seen Apple not take an opportunity to brag about its performance. Alright, so those are some of my thoughts. Let's talk about cinematic video. This one has me conflicted because I do believe that it's going to be an extremely popular video recording feature, especially amongst content creators. I personally don't have a professional YouTuber's camera, a Sony A7 or a Canon, but cinematic mode I am looking forward to using. Basically, all it's doing is, and any NFL fans, you'll know what I'm talking about, it's adding depth of field to the background of the subject that's being focused on. So you get this really nice crisp and focused image on your subject, and the rest of the background or the foreground is blurred out, creating this very nice depth of field and this kind of cinematic look to your video footage. However, they did have a couple of live demos and it looked a little rough, I'm not gonna lie. You can tell that there was a little bit of hunting happening with the focus on some of those live shots. So if you're interested in this feature, keep in mind that if you're tracking a moving subject, you are likely to run into this hunting issue. However, Apple did seem to account for this because they did add the ability to adjust the focus after your shot has been filmed, which is a pretty nice touch. So I imagine that anyone that's a little bit more experienced in videography will have no issue adjusting the shots as they see fit. By the way, I apologize in advance for the sudden shift to voiceover. Apparently, I lost the footage and I didn't realize that until I started editing, but I'm still going to finish out this video. Overall, I know that I have mentioned that I do believe that this is more of a S-like update, but if you're on an iPhone 11 or even an iPhone 10 still, the update to 13 does make sense. If you're still on 12 and you're not really a content creator or prosumer, there really is no reason for you to make the jump just yet. Once again, for full transparency, I am getting the iPhone 13 Pro Max, so when that comes in, I hope to make more of a comparison video and give you my full review on the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Let me know what you think. Do you think this is more of an S update, or do you believe that it is a proper iPhone 13? Or any thoughts on any of the other devices announced, or if you're going to get them yourself. Thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you next time.